Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bill Marianes from Stewardship Calling on Ancient Faith Radio, coming to you live this morning in Los Angeles from the annual meeting of the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops. And now, for this morning's session, we're actually going to go to the other part of the country. I noticed yesterday that we were featuring the West and the North and the Northeast, but now we're going to have the Southern contingency properly represented over here. And we're going to start with Bishop Nicholas of the Antiochian Diocese. And I am so grateful to have you up here, to finally get you up here to have some conversation with you. So,
my pleasure.
Tell everybody a little bit about your diocese, because we need some more visibility down in the South.
Wonderful. My diocese is the Antiochian Diocese of Miami in the Southeast. It involves 9 states.
9 states.
9 states. The border is Oklahoma and Texas, not including Oklahoma and Texas.
Okay.
East.
Everything east.
And then Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, including those states, south.
So you have all of Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's a lot of geography.
It sure is.
How many parishes do you have in that area?
When I first went down to the diocese, we had about 36 parishes.
Okay.
Now, 5 years later, we have 41 parishes.
Awesome.
So we've been starting a mission on average a year.
That's fantastic. A new mission parish every year. Where are the new mission parishes coming in?
The latest one is in Concord, North Carolina, a northeast suburb of Charlotte.
Okay.
And this mission is 2 years old.
Okay.
They already have about 200 people.
You're kidding me.
No.
2 years, 200 people. All right, so obviously you know some magic. You're making missions real and you're making missions grow rapidly. What's the secret?
It's HS.
HS.
The Holy Spirit.
All right. If ever there was a good answer, that's probably the best answer I've ever heard.
I just stay out of the way and let the Holy Spirit take over.
No, you've got to provide some more guidance than just, of course the Holy Spirit will take the lead, but you have to provide some guidance in that regard.
Of course, we have to work hard.
Yeah.
I work hard with my priests, I work hard with the laity, and the news go out.
Yeah.
And people know about it, and they approach us. Sometimes we approach people who are unsure.
Right.
And when there is a critical mass, which means a good group of people, good meaning not referring to the people, referring to the size,
right.
We can start a mission.
And you're finding the priests to do this, and then you have to train them so that they understand what it means. What's involved? What are some of the things that you like to pass along to your clergy when they're beginning a mission parish?
To be patient, first of all.
Okay.
Those virtues are very important. To be patient.
Yeah.
To be loving, because without being loving, people will leave.
Right. That is so powerful. I've shared this before, but there was a priest that I know and I've worked with who inherited a parish that was having some challenges, and so I was working with him to try and address those challenges. And so I said, Father, what's your strategy for the first year? He said, for the first month. He said, I'm going to love everybody. I said, good. What's your strategy for the first 6 months? He said, I'm just going to love everybody. I said, what's your strategy for the first year? I'm just going to love everybody. I said, okay, well, then you'll be successful.
Good answer.
That is a good answer. And so the newest one is in Concord, North Carolina. I'm glad you said that. I was thinking Concord, New Hampshire, so I'm glad you said North Carolina.
No.
Where are some of the other new mission parishes?
Columbia, Tennessee.
Columbia, Tennessee.
Is another successful mission.
And what's Columbia near for those people that are not familiar with that?
Columbia, Tennessee is about an hour south of Nashville, Tennessee, which is Middle Tennessee.
Right. So it's right in the middle of Tennessee. Okay. So that's another good one. What else? Where's some of the other mission parishes?
We are working on 2 different possible missions right now.
Okay.
One in Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Really? Are you?
Mm-hmm.
I live in Gainesville, Georgia. So not too far away.
It's not a mission yet.
Okay.
It's a possible mission.
All right.
And another possible mission in Oxford, Tennessee.
Oh,
Oxford, Mississippi.
Mississippi, yeah.
There are many of the churches in my diocese that are booming.
Right.
And they don't have enough space
right.
for all the converts who are coming in.
Uh-huh.
So what we usually do is we take a group and hopefully start a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an effort of 3 more possible missions.
Fantastic. So you must have a good system for helping train your clergy to understand what the responsibilities and the difficulties are of a mission parish.
We work together very closely and work, of course, with the Archdiocese headquarters.
Correct.
In order for these missions to be successful.
That's fantastic.
In my diocese, there is a diocesan mission operating fund in the diocese.
Oh.
That we help these missions financially on a monthly basis.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
That's fantastic. How was that fund generated? Was that?
It's generated by donations from the other churches.
Okay, so the other existing Antiochian churches will contribute to this mission fund.
Within the diocese.
Right.
Correct.
And again, some of them have benefited from it, so it's logical that they would want to contribute.
Exactly.
So we should ask all of our Antiochian brothers and sisters to make a contribution to your fund there, right? And that's maintained
Absolutely.
At the diocese?
Yes.
Okay. Great. And tell us a little bit about some of your other parishes that you have. That some of the things you have an opportunity to brag about some of your other parishes.
As I mentioned, many of the parishes in my diocese are booming to the extent that up to 15 parishes this past year have either moved to bigger facilities or they have started planning to build
another facility.
Yes.
Wow. So now this is really important for everyone to understand, because I share this a lot in some of the demographic research. The Gallup organizations that's been studying what they call religiosity, the degree to which people are religious across the country, have concluded that the southeastern United States is the most religious of any of the states. And when I travel, they always say to me, well, see, it's so much easier for you to have growing churches. And I go, you don't understand. These people are already going to other churches. It's harder for us. So how are you seeing, where do you see the greatest source of growth and expansion within your diocese? Where's it coming from?
A lot of people are moving to several states in my diocese, like North Carolina, Northwest Arkansas.
Northwest Arkansas too, huh?
Tennessee, Florida.
Right.
A lot of centers that are growing astronomically.
So in other words, we're sending a signal to all of those out there that are looking for a new home in a great part of the country with welcoming and loving churches, that the South is open for you, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, you also do a fair amount of work with the Antiochian men's organizations. And tell us a little bit about that, because I'm not sure as many people know about that work in that ministry.
Sure. About 4 years ago, I created the Antiochian Men organization in the diocese-wise, and we had a board appointed to lead this effort. And since then, every parish in my diocese has this organization.
Oh, so they've all embraced it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I set a top goal for this organization, which is nothing new, really. The goal is to become God-like.
Oh, wonderful.
And
well, it may not be new in the history of Orthodoxy, but for some of these men, maybe have not really thought about that, right?
Correct.
It's a challenge to some of them. Okay.
I jokingly told the organization that this is something very new. I take the full credit for it. And then I told them it's only 2,000 years old.
Yeah, okay. And you're not quite yet 2,000 years old, right?
A little bit.
Some days it feels that way. Okay.
It's a goal that our Lord gave us, and it is unique to Orthodoxy. And all the other goals in every chapter needs to feed into this top goal.
Okay. All right.
In some cases, we have men who are converting who don't know how to be men.
Yeah.
And they need mentoring.
Right.
They need guidance.
Right. And so what are some of the things that these men's organizations do? How do you help them on their journey?
Well, what they need to do is, the goal is to be godlike, and each parish has its own sub-goals.
Okay.
For example, one of the parishes, the Antiochian men painted the house of a widow.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Another parish, they went on a project to help the homeless, for example. things like that.
Right. So this is kind of, so, you know, many of the jurisdictions have organizations of women that are doing this outreach, and which is fantastic, and they do amazing work. And now you're reinstituting it in and amongst the men, right?
This is 50% of the church that has not been organized.
Right.
The Antiochian women have been organized for decades, and have been functioning well, have been doing very well. Now, for the past 4 years, we started that at the diocese level.
And are there ever activities where you bring all the men's group from the diocese together in one place and have a retreat or something?
Absolutely. There is a full annual retreat for the Antiochian men.
Okay.
That takes place in November every year.
Where?
Well, it depends on the situation. During the pandemic, it was on Zoom.
Right, of course.
Now we're emerging out of the pandemic. We have been, and the next one was being planned for 2023, October 2023 or November. The location was going to be in a place that we specified, but now we're changing that place.
Oh, you're changing. But it's going to be warm and nice, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. Because that's one thing we've got a lot in October and November is nice and beautiful weather. Absolutely. About the group of men that you have, you said some of them are not used to understanding their responsibility to work towards being godlike. In your diocese, do you have a sense of what is the mix of parishioners between cradle Orthodox and converts?
We have in my parishes many convert parishes. I have 41 parishes and missions. Probably between 30 of them, 30 and 35 are converts.
Okay, all right. And so clearly they understand their need to minister to all the people that are in their geography and in their area and stuff.
Of course. We don't talk about cradle Orthodox or converts.
Right.
It doesn't matter to us. It's Orthodox people in the diocese.
And that's a really powerful message, Your Grace, because to be honest with you, not every place does that same thing. Some are a little bit, have the feeling of a little bit more exclusion, and it sounds like yours is intentionally welcoming and open and stuff.
Absolutely. So what we do to foster this feeling among everybody is that we have a fall retreat every year that we usually hold in Franklin, Tennessee.
Okay.
And then we have a clergy retreat followed by a winter retreat that we hold in Atlanta.
Wonderful.
And each one of these retreats receives about 300 to 350 people.
From all over the diocese.
From all over the diocese. And then we have a third diocesan event in June, which is called the PLC, the Parish Life Conference.
Correct.
And also that's for the whole diocese.
Well, one of these days, I either need to find out where it is so I can sneak in the back door and observe what's going on, because you obviously have some very, very incredible, wonderful things going on in the diocese.
Glory be to God. It's God's work, and we're trying to supplement it.
Right. Now you have a background beyond just your clerical work. I mean, everybody sees you as a hierarch of the church, and that's fantastic, but you also have some other background experiences. Talk a little bit about that background.
Absolutely. I'm a computer engineer, electrical and computer engineer. And,
so wait, stop for a second. For all of you computer and electrical engineers out there, I want you to know that God may be calling you one day too. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'm an electrical and computer engineer. I have degrees in that. And I worked as an engineer, as a computer engineer for about 20 years before I left my career and went to seminary.
Okay.
And that helps me tremendously in structuring things.
Yes.
So we've created in my diocese an infrastructure to support the idea of becoming godlike.
Right.
And there are organizations that meet. There is a diocesan ministry council that meets with me most of the year, every week.
Every week?
Every week.
Oh my goodness.
And we plan
My
events.
Metropolitan is sitting over there. He's coming up next over here. Don't let him hear that you meet every week with your council.
I'm sure he has more important organizations than ours. We're very small diocese, only 41 parishes. In 9 states. So.
But in all honesty, as I sit back and look at your career path and your life path, the the path that you chose to be an engineer, to be in the computer science field, has helped you immensely, it sounds like, in your ministry now as a bishop. And so it's all part of God's plan, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so.
And one more question in that regard, I don't, if I'm getting too personal, by all means, you don't have to answer it, but there you are as a successful engineer, successful in the technology space. What happens when you feel the calling to serve the Lord in a more way? I'm sure you were always a part of the church, but I mean that really engaged you in this process of the journey you're on now.
Well, when I first felt the calling, I ran away from it for about 12 years.
Really?
Yeah.
12 years you were hiding, but not hiding from God, right?
That's right. I wanted to make sure that it is God's calling and it is not my ego.
Good.
And that took about 12 years.
12 years. Patience. We have to remind everybody of the patience to answer God's call.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I wanted to make sure that I don't do what Peter did.
Yeah.
In the book of Acts, Peter was told, all the disciples were told, don't leave Jerusalem. And Peter being Peter, he's a saint, much greater than me. He went out to the Gentiles to disciple them, and he brought 0 people to the faith. I wanted to make sure that I don't do what he did, learning from his experience.
So there's actually a biblical foundation behind your journey. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, when you told your family, or did you tell your family, and again, I'm getting real personal now, did you tell your family 12 years earlier, hey, I'm really thinking about doing this?
Well, along the way, we talked about it.
Okay.
I told my family that, and it's welcomed. As you may or may not know, my brother is a priest in Las Vegas, so has been the priest of the Antiochian Church there for about 20 years. So it is in the family.
There's a family gene for that kind of thing. Now, he's a priest and you're a bishop. So does that ever get a little bit funny when you're together and stuff like that? Like when you have a family meal, does he have to serve you, or how does that work?
No, I serve everybody. I don't think about hierarchy.
That's what
when I'm
your
at home.
humility is. One of the things that makes you special, to be honest.
Glory be to God.
Yeah. So you're using the systems engineering and technology experience you have to actually help your ministries and your parishes flourish in that regard.
Yeah. See, you can take an engineer out of engineering, but you cannot take engineering out of the engineer.
Okay.
So once you graduate from engineering school, especially in computers, everything you learned for the past 5 years is obsolete.
Yeah.
What you keep, what you retain, is the way you think.
Yes.
You learned how to think.
Yes. Yes.
And that survives with me. Actually, I cannot imagine life without it.
It's part of your DNA now. I mean, it's the way you approach things.
Absolutely. Things have to make sense.
Right.
Things that are mystical in the church don't have to, because they're mystical. 3 persons, 1 God. How do we explain that in engineering?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a math problem with that, isn't there?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we don't explain that in engineering. We have to take it by faith. We have to accept it by faith.
Right.
But there are other things that perfectly make sense in orthodoxy.
I also wonder, and you tell me, if the fact that you had that systematic and engineering background and that way of thinking helps you explain theology in a much more practical and accessible manner, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See, the first year in seminary, they tell you, just memorize this, just memorize this, memorize this, without linking those concepts together.
Right.
But it almost never happens that someone tells you how they are linked.
Right.
Having the logic of engineering, the second year, they start to link in your mind.
You can see the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, because, and I've heard that from other people that have been trained in the engineering profession, that how similar it is in some respects to in the law profession. In law school, they're trying to teach you how to think, because the laws are going to change, the people are going to change, the facts are going to change. So it's a matter of thinking and a process of thinking, and you can then apply it no matter what you're dealing with.
Exactly.
All right. So one more question, because you've been very generous with your time now. What do you see as the future looking like? Take it out as far as you want, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, for your diocese or for the church? I mean, we're here at the assembly trying to bring everybody closer to Christ and each other and working for Orthodox unity, but kind of what's your view of what the future looks like?
I think I can speak for my diocese. I think there are a lot of areas in my diocese that does not have Antiochian churches.
Mm-hmm.
And we can expand and start Antiochian churches in cooperation with the Archdiocese headquarters greatly.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of converts, a lot of fertile grounds to start new missions and preach our Lord Jesus Christ.
That's fantastic. So you are optimistic about what the future looks like.
Absolutely.
So all that data that I presented to you yesterday about the trend lines going in the wrong direction, you're saying we're going to turn it around, right?
Well, I use this data. I have been using this data that 6 out of 10 people, when they go to college, leave the church.
Right.
And I've been using it to motivate people so that it does not happen.
Right.
And I tell them, we don't really lose them when they go to college. That's not when we lose them. We lose them when they are 8 or 9 or 10 years old.
That is exactly right.
But at that point, they have no choice.
Yeah.
Their parents take them to church.
Right.
As soon as they have a choice, they leave.
Right.
Which means we have to start to prepare them much earlier than 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I do for that, I visit every church in the diocese at least twice a year.
Wow.
And what I do is I visit a cluster of parishes, and one parish I visit for 2 or 3 days, and the others for 1 or 2 meetings.
Right.
And then the next time I flip them around. Right. And at every parish, I do a retreat for the children under 13, a retreat for the teens, a retreat for the Antiochian women, and a retreat for the Antiochian men. At every parish, at every visit.
I think we have just gotten you to expose the magic and the secret sauce behind your success.
Shut down the recording.
It's too late. We're live. The world has already heard. It is that systematic, intentional approach of reaching every one of the constituencies where they are and inviting them and engaging them in the journey of theosis and the journey to God.
Exactly. One more piece of the puzzle is that God has bestowed upon me a good memory. I remember everybody's name.
Oh, wow.
And I call them by their names when I go visit their parishes.
Okay, so that is I'm sorry, I said that was the last question. I got one more question. How do you do that? For those of us that are challenged remembering names, what's your secret?
Well, before I became a priest, I was challenged too, remembering names.
Okay.
You shake somebody's hand and then you space off and when the person says his name or her name.
Right.
What I do is that as they tell me their name, I stare into their face, which might be uncomfortable.
So they got to start like, oh, what's he looking at, right?
And I repeat their name 2-3 times in my mind.
Okay. And
this experience needs to happen for me 2 to 3 times, and then I never forget their names.
Wow, that's a great technique. That's a fantastic technique. One of my law partners, who was a governor in the state of Georgia, and he had a great facility with names. And I asked him how he did it, and his technique was the first time he met somebody. Now, again, the problem is when you meet somebody and they give you your name, sometimes if you're not focused, you're going to miss it. But he says the minute they give me their name, I try to think of somebody who has that same name who I know very well, and then I always associate that person with this person, and I'll have their name.
I use that technique too.
Yeah, see, I was trying to figure out if you use that one too.
Yeah.
So, and it's got to be so great when look, it's great when anybody acknowledges someone by name, but certainly when their bishop acknowledges by name, that's got to feel really special.
Yeah. Other things that have worked for the diocese is that I ask them what they do, what their background is,
right,
and I make a mental note of how I can use them in the service of God in the diocese. And then I call upon them, I need you to do this for the diocese.
That is so perfectly orthodox. One of my favorite quotes I use in every leadership, I do a lot of leadership programs, is the quote from St. John Chrysostom that really the primary responsibility of a leader is to discover the gifts that were given to everybody. And then he ends it by saying, and to cause those gifts to be used to the full for the benefit of all. And so that if we are always looking at someone, and obviously accepting whatever they say, but looking at what gifts they've been given, we'll find an opportunity to connect them to ministry.
Exactly. And we use social media very effectively. We have a website for the diocese. We have a website.
What's the URL of the website? We're going to
domse.org.
What?
DOMSE. Diocese of Miami and Southeast.org.
DOMSE, DOMSE.org.
.org. Okay. We have AntiochianMen.org.
AntiochianMen.org. Can only Antiochian men access that, or
no? Anybody can access.
Okay.
Anybody can access anything.
Okay.
We have a communication method for all parishioners in the diocese. We use the app BAND.
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 Right.
And everybody becomes a member of this. They have to request to become a member, register. And if there is a piece of news, we put it on BAND, we put it on Facebook, we put it on the website. So everybody is informed of what the plans are that are happening in the diocese.
God used your time and technology very, very well, because you're using all of the tools that he's given us effectively.
We have YouTube channels for the Antiochian men, for the diocese. We record meetings. We record spiritual retreats.
Okay.
We record, all of that go into the channels,
right,
YouTube
so
channels.
Note to the great team from Ancient Faith Radio over here. As soon as this is produced, we need to feed it to domse.org, and they need to have this up here, because I think anytime we have the opportunity, this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to let as many people know and see the hierarchs of the Orthodox Church, and who are incredible, each in their own ways and each in their own rights, that are delivering their gifts for God's greater glory, and are actually working so diligently to bring Orthodox unity and bring us all closer to Christ. So, you guys, I really want to thank you very much for taking time. I know I've interrupted your meeting at the assembly schedule over here, but I thought it was really important to hear your voice, and also have a good Southerner up over here, up on the program. So for those of you at Ancient Faith Radio, in the orthosphere out there, those of you that are looking at the assembly website, wherever it is that you're gathering this information, we want to thank His Grace Bishop. What was your name again? Just testing to see if I had that recollection.
Bishop Nicholas.
I knew that. And see, did you see over here what we have over here? We have a Saint Nicholas over here. So Bishop Nicholas from the Diocese of Miami and southeastern part of the world. Okay, we welcome you. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in just a few seconds with another special interview of another hierarch from the South, my own Metropolitan Alexius. Thank you. We'll be back in just a second.
Thank you.